All right, welcome everyone to High Tech Live. Bienvenidos. If you're new to High Tech and/or High Tech Live, welcome. I'm Viviana Costa, the Executive Director of High Tech. High Tech Live is our bi-monthly series where we bring together the Hispanic technology community to connect, share, and learn something new. And today our friends at Capital One are going to talk about the cloud, and more specifically, how using cloud technology has empowered Capital One to enable breakthrough digital experiences to their customers. We will have a Q&A at the end, so have those questions ready. And also, some of our panelists are going to be joining at the end for a networking session, so if you can stick around, please do. So today we have, and please welcome, Élida Cruz, who is the VP of Commercial and Small Business Design. We also have Mike Garcia, MVP of Card Partnerships Technology, and also a 3-time High Tech 100 awardee. And our today's moderator, Blanca Roman. Blanca is a director at Capital One, and she leads Agile portfolio delivery in Capital One's card technology organization. With over 16 years in the banking, finance, tech industry, Blanca has been a part of Capital One's cloud technology transformational journey. Blanca, we're looking forward to you and the team sharing this transformation journey with us. So take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Viviana. Hola, High Tech Familia. I love this unique set of this crew here. The High Tech Familia is always welcoming and wonderful. So I'm super, super excited about our conversation today. As Viviana alluded to, we're going to talk a little bit about Capital One and our journey to the cloud, and really how that's enabled us to create some really breakthrough experiences for our customers. So with that, let me go ahead and welcome Mike and Élida to the virtual stage. Give them an opportunity to introduce themselves a little bit. Mike, will you get us started?
Hey everyone, it's great to be here. I love the High Tech family and everything it does for the community, and so always happy to be here to to share Capital One's journey or my own journey. So I like Blanca had mentioned, Mike Garcia. I am the managing vice president over our Canadian and our U.S. partnerships technologies in Capital One. I'm also blessed with the role of being the executive sponsor for Hispanics in Technology, which is our business resource group focused on elevating, acquiring and helping the community at large for our Hispanic family members. And then I'm also the executive, the accountable executive for people leadership in tech, where we're really focused on the unique problems of people leaders and how to improve that and create safety and a community among those. So I'm super excited to be here, super excited to share this journey with you all and hear your questions and create a great dialogue. I'll pass it to Élida.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. I'm Élida Cruz. I am a Mexican-American, wife and mom of one gender non-conforming 10-year-old. I love karaoke.
Oh, Élida, you went on mute.
Oh,
we heard karaoke and then
karaoke, drag queens, Muppets, tacos. And if I think of myself as a Venn diagram, I like to sit at the intersection of understanding people, what drives and motivates them, what gives them energy, what fills their cup, and tapping into that to then create great experiences that our customers will love and that drive real business impact. As Blanca mentioned, I lead experience design for commercial and small business. I also have been welcomed into the Hispanics and tech community at Capital One by Mike, so thank you, Mike. I am so blessed to be part of this community. I'm so super excited to talk with you all today about how the cloud enables great digital experiences for our customers. And I'm also super proud to say that I'm part of the E+ community in high tech this year, and it's been an awesome and wonderful experience, and I'm so happy to be part of this team.
Thank you, guys. Well, now we have all the street cred, right? We
Blanca,
have the right people here on this call.
Wait a second, before you go on, there's something you need to know about Blanca. Like, Blanca is not only an active member in Hispanics in Tech, Hola, which is our national beer.
I'm actually in a meeting that.
But now that we know that you're in a meeting, let me tell you something really important. Blanca has actually contributed in amazing ways to the community. Not only is she heavily involved in high tech, but she has spearheaded awards for our community. She spearheaded the very first Hispanics in Tech Award. And then when Capital One started giving diversity awards at the national level, Blanca was the one designing it and creating incredible breakthroughs, like making sure we had like triple blind reviews of nominations and making people feel special. So Blanca, you deserve an introduction as well, because you do so much for the community. Thank you for that.
Oh, thanks so much, Mike. You're such a great leader. I really appreciate it. I think most of the folks on this call can really relate. You know, we want to make sure that we're elevating. I heard Nicole Sanchez say it once, and she said it so powerfully, is we got to hold that elevator door up for others to come up behind us. So anything that, you know, I can do to contribute to the community, I'm all in. So let's talk a little bit about Capital One's cloud transformation journey. You know, it's sort of a loaded question. You know, I love this story because 7 years ago, Capital One made a pretty bold declaration and said, hey, we're going to be moving out of our data centers by the end of 2020. I remember hearing that objective kind of rolled out, and I thought, man, this imperative is massive. 2020 so far away, and here we are, you know, a pandemic into it, ever-changing, you know, social justice movement. There's just been so much that has happened. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about that story and that journey and what it looked like to be involved in making that happen?
Absolutely. Thanks, Blanca. You know, the funny thing about that story is the company had just finished building another data center and launching it. And the thing that Capital One does really well, because of the way that, you know, it was founded, with our leadership being kind of from a strategic background, Rich Fairbank would always say to everybody at the table, all right, now squint, and I want you to look into the future, and I want you to tell me what you see. And when they did that at that time, they were like, yeah, I know we just built this data center, but like everybody's going to the cloud, and the people who go to the cloud are going to have flexibility and the ability to do things real time that we're not able to do kind of with all of this heavy kind of albatross around our neck. And so, you know, this is one of the things that, you know, Capital One has done really well, is when they start to kind of really look at where the world is going and start to go after it, we create this incredible swarm of execution around it. Now, that journey started with like the exuberance that I'm sure all of you may have experienced in transformations of, all right, let's go see what happens, right? And so people start like lining up to the door, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, right, we're a regulated bank. We can't do it that way, right? And so we like all of a sudden we've got to figure out, all right, how do we do this in a way that is also making us the best at risk management at the same time? And so the company went through a massive transformation. We knew that we needed to move away from where we were largely using kind of, you know, a lot of outsourced, you know, labor sources, to really hiring, a massive tech organization and becoming a tech organization, embracing Agile, changing the way we work, creating controls, and, you know, bringing in new risk teams. So our risk, our first line, second line, third line risk all grew along with us, because we said, okay, we've got to do this in a way that nobody else, like a lot of these other companies, fintechs and others, don't have to worry about. Like they're just flying along and doing what they're doing, but we can't do that. And we don't care. We're going to innovate. So the team really started to, you know, work on that hiring and bringing in the right mindset to really get, you know, the company going in the right direction. And so that began kind of this great journey that we were on. We were at a place where we had, you know, a ratio of, you know, non-tech to tech people of something along the lines of like 30 to 70, right? So, you know, we had overwhelmingly way more non-tech people than tech people. Today, like 90% of tech is tech people, which is an incredible transformation. And we grew from, you know, a couple thousand to, you know, over 14,000. I don't know. The number keeps changing because we keep growing. So you think about that scale that we had to do in this transformation. It was because we weren't doing what people have always done, right? We had to invent. we had to create what nobody else had done. And so on this journey, one of the first things we did was we built something that many in the community know about, and it's called Cloud Custodian. And Cloud Custodian is the software that allows us to be well managed in Amazon, because even Amazon didn't have, the capabilities that we needed to use to be able to be well managed and be able to go fast in the cloud. That software is now used by hundreds of organizations, if not thousands, if you include smaller organizations, and is, it's touted as one of the kind of the leading cloud softwares and even endorsed by Amazon because of, what we had to create. Once we created that, and we had some failed attempts early in like 2016, like we started to move some things in, but we learned really fast what would and wouldn't work. We had to think about the app stack. We had to think about the data tier. And when you think about like how an organization evolves over time, our data systems and the way we did analysis were in so many different systems that, it was a monumental effort to like stare down that Herculean task and say, how the heck are we going to do it? But we never relented on the fact that we were going to move forward and we weren't going to compromise. And so we had a lot of really pivotal moments along the way, Blanca, that I think about that, really stand out in my mind, where we could have compromised, our journey in some way, but we chose not to. There's always those moments you're going to hit where it's like, hey, the safe bet would be to lift and shift, right? The harder job would be to refactor your application and deploy. And we, where it mattered, we always refactored where it mattered. Where it didn't matter, then, of course you can take a push for a while, and then, it'll catch up because you're going to be rewriting the software, doing things like that. But there was major things to think about. That's just the application and the data. And then you had to think about mainframes, and you had to think about third parties and how you interact with all of them in this journey, because they're all set up for a data center world where, they have direct connections in. They're not mature in cloud. So when you have them start connecting to cloud, you ask for them to, provide solutions for the cloud. That is, a monumental effort. And what we found was we partnered with third parties who were willing to transform alongside us. So we ended up bringing them on a journey too, and making them stronger on the path. The other thing to consider too on this journey was the amazing amount of instability you create when you're switching environments. We had, we were in a mode where we would have these high severity incidents that were very painful, right? Because you're moving, areas people aren't as trained up on what they're doing. And so one of the things we embraced too was the principle of you build, you own, right? This is, move away from centralized kind of, DevOps teams and go towards more of an SRE mindset where the teams themselves are incentivized to engineer for stability, because we had massive amounts of, instability. And then what we would do is, along the lines of kind of all the Netflix and Chaos Monkey, we would inflict our own pain along the way before the pain was inflicted at us on kind of, that wasn't on our schedule. And we would learn from that, and the teams would improve. Where we are today is a miracle. Like it's almost exhausting to look back and see how far that journey was and how hard it was, but we're all in on the cloud. I'm proud to say that as of a month ago, we shut down the last mainframe semblance that we had, and we are out of the data centers. We have some colos, of course, for connectivity reasons and things like that to site to site, but for all intents and purposes, we're 100% in cloud. And now our journey is one of taking that cloud capability and making it more advanced, right? Going deeper, not just containers, going full on serverless and taking care of business in a different way. Because whatever we do, it's about getting to that state, that world where we can use real-time data to make decisions for our customers. And then we can learn about our customers in a way that is, that brings them value, but in a way that is safe and takes into account their privacy. Because that's one of the, that's super important to Capital One, and is that concept of unassailability. And again, we've chosen to do what was right for the customer, because just like Amazon had always said, that maniacal focus on customer is true. If you do that and let that be your guiding principle, then the rest of the choices you have to make on your journey are a lot simpler because you know all the options that you wouldn't compromise your customers for. So I know that was a lot, and I'm happy to dive into any other area, but I'm sure there's a lot of other interesting aspects to this journey that folks would like to hear about that isn't just tech. So I'll pass it over to you, Élida, or to you.
Yeah.
Blanca. Yeah.
I would just add one thing to that, just to build on the amazing story of what we've seen with our transformation at Capital One, is that it wasn't just technology that was changing and transforming. When we started the digital transformation, we didn't have a design practice really inside Capital One. We had brand and we had marketing and we had some more of the kind of externally facing aspects. But what we did way back when we started our journey was acquire a service design consultancy called Adaptive Path of about 30 people. I mean, it was a tiny little team, but it was huge in the design industry and in the financial service industry for actually making an investment in experience design. And over the course of these number of years, we have grown from a 30-person acquisition to over 600 designers, experienced designers that are focusing on how we are leveraging data, how we are leveraging machine learning to create those experiences that our customers see across all of our different lines of business. So it also changed the way that we worked, how we engaged, not only bringing in technology, but bringing in product management and business leaders who had more experience in the technology sector as opposed to just the financial services sector. And I think it has proven to be quite successful in terms of what we've been able to do and the types of experiences that we can drive for our customers. Blanca, over to you.
I love that. You know what, you guys have hit on, just that partnership and the way that we've changed the way that we work at Capital One. Our CEO and founder lovingly calls this whole transformation the move to the other side of the canyon. We often hear this at our strategy meetings every year, and it's a term we now embrace, right? We're on the other side of this massive transformation. And you touched a little bit on that, Élida. Tell us a little bit about what has it been like to really, now that we're talking this collaborative interaction between tech and product and really starting to now envelop our design partners and building those experiences, what has that been like, and how has this move to the cloud enabled us to build those world-class experiences?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Blanca. It's a good one. I think when you think about building products and services digitally, it's really important that you have what I like to refer to as kind of the 3 legs of the stool, and that is experience design, technology, and product management. So you have the 3 different focus areas of desirability, feasibility, and viability, who are all coming together to determine the best approach for an experience, a new product, a new service that we're developing. In that context, experience design really champions delivering simplicity in complex, data-rich experiences, as well as products and services. So our job is to create clarity out of the intensely complex financial services and banking products that we're creating. So the move to the cloud has enabled us to really look deeply at the architecture of our experiences and positioned an opportunity to implement more intuitive, more efficient experiences for our users as we consolidated third-party platforms into scalable Capital One maintained cloud architecture. And so really what that means is we were able to reduce a lot of the friction by bringing those experiences in-house and allowing us to be the masters of our own domain to create the types of services and the frictionless experiences that we want for our customers. So one really good example of this in the space that I lead in our kind of credit solutions area is we created an associate facing platform, so an employee facing platform that's cloud-based, which allows for digitization of documents. So in credit and lending, there can be a lot of documents that are sent back and forth, a lot of manual processes. It introduced digitization, automation, integration with other APIs, other technologies, other systems that those teams need to use in order to deliver solutions to customers, and as well as gaining insights from our users so that we could enable better experiences. So we moved tons of manual workflows from this kind of distributed model to a more centralized, automated model that was powered by the cloud. That has reduced the time it takes to actually process a loan for our commercial customers from something like 90 days to 15. So we've seen immense amounts of traction in how moving to the cloud and having easy access to data, and data that we are defining we need to move processes forward. Another example is we created a data solution for our commercial clients, which is powered by the cloud, and it allows intuitive, scalable reporting. So you can imagine from a commercial banking perspective, when you're working with different customers, they're going to want to see lots of different reports on how their loans are doing, how their bank accounts are doing, their credit card, their commercial card reconciliations, things like that. And we were able to really create a lot less overhead for our customers and give them what they need without taxing our associates to go and build custom reports. So the cloud has enabled us to create these other experiences that are really creating real-time, intelligent, broad use of broad data sets that our customers are looking for to help them run their business really effectively. And we do this all in collaboration with product and tech and business partners. So we're always keeping an eye on not only what the customer needs and making sure that the customer is at the heart of everything we do, but also that we're moving towards and driving to achieving our overall business objectives as well. So by being in the cloud, so much of that is just much more efficient, much faster, and can really help us drive the experiences that our customers may not even know that they need.
That's awesome. That's so great. I think, you know, we tend to, especially in the tech industry, everything is so fast-paced. There's always new trends coming about. And, you know, I'm going to ask sort of an obvious question, so humor me here for a little bit, but like, why does it matter? Like, why is this even important? How has Capital One found, in your opinion, a competitive advantage in the marketplace with this cloud migration?
Before joining Capital One, and I've been with Capital One for 3 years, and before joining, I spent 7 years working in a major consulting firm, and was I worked in the design and innovation arm of that consulting firm. So I had the ability and the opportunity to work with a lot of different clients who are trying new things and innovating in different spaces. And as Capital One has moved to the cloud and become much more of a tech company, we're seeing this like highly competitive tech sector. We're seeing that talent wants to go where innovation is happening. And by being all in on the cloud, and particularly as a financial services company, and I believe maybe the first or one of the first to go 100% into the cloud, this creates opportunity for that talent and that great talent to explore new innovation spaces, and challenges us to think about how to solve these complex problems that we experience every day in servicing our customers that have a real human impact. And you know, I can tell you from being in the design and innovation side of a consultancy where I had the opportunity to work with lots of different clients and solving different problems, what drew me to Capital One was this investment in being on the cutting edge of what's happening within technology so that we can actually fulfill our mission and continue to drive our mission of changing banking for good. So I think it's incredibly important for organizations out there, whether financial services or otherwise, to have their finger on the pulse of what's happening within technology, because that is how the workforce is changing. That is how those experiences are changing overall. That is how brands are evolving.
You know, I couldn't agree more, Élida. And I want to pull out another reason why, and this should scare the life out of anybody who isn't doing it. And that is, when you look at the pace of change that we're up against, if you don't adopt the modern practices, the modern deployments, the microservices, you are opening yourself up to massive attacks from cyber threats across the world. I remember not too long ago on my vacation, I was reading a book. There's a SparkFlow has this, he does all these different hacks and how he kind of hacked into kind of cloud environments, because that's always an area that we're always thinking about. And it's just breathtaking because the amount of existing threats that are out there that many companies are privy to. It's a wonder. It's no wonder why Colonial Pipeline got embezzled, or taken advantage of and bribed. And we're seeing companies all over the world face the same thing. When you take this modernization journey, sure, is there a risk that you kind of leave something open because you don't know how to use it right? There's that worry too. And absolutely, you've got to be able to mitigate that. But the reality is that if you don't take these new practices, you're not going to be able to keep your fleet of software up to date and current enough to protect you from the constant threats that are out there. And that's something that has really changed, like the pace of change at Capital One versus other places I've been, at being able to maintain our posture and being able to reduce these threats is breathtaking. So all the reasons that Élida mentioned, absolutely, it's important you do that, but don't forget that the world doesn't just sit down and wait. Rich is famous for saying in his strategy updates, Rich, our CEO and chairman, he says, the world comes on little cat feet. And it's so true, not just on strategy, but also in cyber. So be careful.
Yes, those little cat feet, it's so fun. I guess as we start thinking a little bit about you guys talked a little bit about our why, our guiding principles, and kind of, you talked a little bit about our culture somewhat, right? Like that customer-centric focus. I don't know if the audience caught that, but Élida spoke a little bit about our mission, and it's quite straightforward and simple, and that's to change banking for good. So I'll just kind of leave that out there, let it sink in a little bit. But while we do that, I guess, Mike, let me punt this next question to you. In your opinion, what has been the most striking capabilities that Capital One has been able to unleash as part of going all in on the cloud?
That's a great question. I think when you think about capabilities, some of the most, like the critical, just carrying on from what I was saying before, have been the ability to deploy new servers and keep them what we call rehydrated, meaning like replace them at a pace that we could never dream of before, and it's managed automatically. So we're constantly cycling through our entire fleet of servers, making sure they're updated at a level. And so that's keeping our vulnerability levels at all-time lows. So that's a big deal. Now, capabilities that we're enabling for our customers, we are now that we're on the other side of the canyon you talked about, we have a backlog of transformation projects that are going through our pipeline from all of our business units that are basically rewriting all of our technology. So some of the cool things that we do, like with Amazon, Poly and Lex, that allows us to do some machine learning when people call in to our different servicing channels, are very disruptive. Our ability to reduce fraud through being able to analyze transactions in real time And if you look at any of our public reporting, you can see that we have very impressive levels of reduced fraud in the industry. And it's because we've been able to now, because of this data lake that we have, the way that our ecosystem of applications are working, able to identify these threats much, much faster than we ever could before. And so what I would just say is, just hold your hat, because every single part of the company has some major initiative to kind of reinvent the way we do our technology and the way we interact with our customers.
Absolutely. And as important is mitigating that risk, and the ability to develop and deploy quickly because we're in the cloud. That also enables us to deliver in-market experiences really quickly and efficiently, so that we can maximize the types of engagements and experiences we're having with our customers across our platforms. So very easy for us to do, for example, an A/B test to make sure that we're getting the right information to our customers and the right experiences and interactions when they need it. And it's also allowed us to scale our natural language processing, our machine learning capabilities, like you mentioned, Mike, and also helped us to reduce that overhead of associates having to manually go through all of those things, and speeded up our resolution for our customers, which overall impacts their experience. I mean, I think one of the best examples of this was during the pandemic, and really the payroll protection program that happened, when businesses and small businesses particularly came to us wanting to figure out how to take advantage of the payroll protection program. We had to stand up a whole process and way of working and function almost overnight. And had we been tied to our data centers and sort of mainframes, that would have been almost impossible. But we were able to really put that focus on what do our customers need right away. And because we had a modern technology architecture and infrastructure, we were also able to get that up and running really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. That recession like response activity was something that we were able to quickly pivot on. Totally agree. Let's talk a little bit about our data. I think you both have talked about it, in some of the other questions and the examples that you've brought up. How has this move, in your opinion, changed the way that we're using data at Capital One?
So I'll take it from kind of more the technology side, and I'm sure Élida can elaborate on some of the use cases. So one of the biggest things that we had to shift from was the way that we think about how we even register data. Like before this, we had all sorts of operational data stores and BI data stores, and like everything was just promulgated in different areas. Each application would copy and duplicate data in different ways, and it was a bit of a nightmare, right? So when we did this migration, one of the biggest things we did was our data transformation, which was to move out of all of these older systems, adopt a model in which we had a streaming data platform, and that streaming data platform fed into our One Lake, and then we used we used Snowflake for our BI, and move everybody into kind of this model where we have a catalog for our data that is kind of read across the organization and used. And this has allowed us to improve upon it, because now that we can see it, we can start to really think about more of the ontology and how do we actually think about the entities, and like how do we develop this so that we can further refine it. So we're at that place now where we're taking that data and we're further refining it. And the beauty of that is now we have that transparency, or we're reaching the transparency that we're looking for. And for example, there's regulatory requirements that we have that change every day, and you all experience it. If you have data on customers, there are different government guidelines that are changing rapidly. This is from a technology perspective allowed us to comply with those asks with a lot more certainty and much faster. And so we're not perfect, we're still working through that journey, as anybody does, and it never ends. There's always something new you're going to do. But that alone has been a huge step change in our ability to work from an operational standpoint. Also, just on this, I mean, because of, the way that we're moving from, more of a bespoke model to one in which you subscribe to kind of a streaming platform. We're able to also kind of really enable our applications to re-architect in ways that they couldn't before, because they can reach across different data sets that they weren't able to in the past, which has really allowed for, and I love, Élida's point of view on this, allowed for innovation, because now you can access things in a more kind of standard way. It really opens up the path for innovation. So those are my thoughts, but Élida, what do you think?
Absolutely. Plus 1,000 to all of that. Data is so unbelievably critical to the experience, the overall user experience that a customer is going to have with us. It's really easy to think about design as just what the interaction might be, or the user interface, or what the buttons look like. But underneath all of that is a really complex ecosystem of data points. And so, and interactions, and machine to machine interactions, people to machine interactions, people to people interactions. And that is really kind of the world of design, and how myself and my team are thinking about all of those things and how they come together. And so with data, that really informs us how our customers are using our digital products and services. We're able to analyze breakpoints in different parts of the journey, and through data, combined particularly with qualitative research, so actually talking to customers and hearing how they're experiencing our different digital platforms, we can really better understand the changes that are needed in order to meet their needs and improve their overall experience in working with Capital One. More robust real-time access to various data sets and data points allows us to craft more anticipatory features to meet our customers where they're at. So having all of those different pieces, being able to go broad in terms of the data that we do have, really allows us to start to think about how we're designing for needs of our customers that they might not even totally be aware of that they do need. And that in and of itself is one step towards that innovation. No one ever necessarily thought of the iPhone, and look where we are now. And so how can we do that same thing with financial services, and in creating those safe, secure, but innovative ways of engaging with money?
Thanks so much. Yeah, I think you guys are all starting to pick up on a theme here, right? So we at Capital One, we're a tightly collaborative organization. Our tech and our product and design folks, we're one big family. We're constantly, collaborating together. And before we actually dive into some more details and really how Capital One has reinvented itself, I do want to give a quick shout out. So those of us that are on, and if you heard Mike or Élida say anything that sparks a question or a thought, throw it in the chat. I mean, we want to be responsive to you. We want to hear from you and know, what kind of questions you have out there. So I'll give you some time to kind of think one up and brew it in your mind a little bit. And just before we pivot to our next question, so throw it in the chat. We'll be paying attention to that, and we'd love to hear from you. So on that note, Mike, tell us a little bit about, how you see that Capital One has reinvented itself through, as I think about our critical banking applications. Like, we dream of the world, but at the end of the day, we're a financial services organization. How have we reinvented ourselves?
Wow, it's a fantastic question, because obviously in my life I've used banking services throughout, and I've so you started, a lot of times you're kind of like, they're all the same, right? That's one of those things where having been on the inside and seeing kind of how we've reinvented ourselves, really it stands to differentiate kind of in so many different ways, but most of them are small ways that really add up. Something I'm so proud of is the fact that, we really do try for this unassailability. If Capital One is doing well, it should only be because our consumers and customers are doing well too. And so we've set up our products to work in that way. An example that people may not even really think twice about, if you go to certain stores and, they say, hey, you can get this at, 12 months financing. And all of a sudden, at the end of that 12 months, if you don't pay it, you're charged all the back interest, you would have had if you weren't paying, like if you were paying like little by little, you'd still have to get charged interest. So they would charge you all that back interest, which amounts to a lot of money, right? And so usually it becomes a real problem because they'll give you like 3 years, 0% interest. So you can imagine the consumer, they missed the date and they're just a little late and all of a sudden they get slammed with it. Our ability to, use data in a different way to remind our customers, and guess what? We don't allow products like that. There was a time where we acquired organizations that did, and this gives us a chance to say, hey, no, we're not going to do that practice because it's not okay for the customer. And so when I think about reimagining our products and banking, it feels so good to be able to have, to have that knowledge that, look, it is going to be, I'm going to be treated fairly. And I'm going to have the clarity of kind of what I'm going to pay for. I'm not going to have any of these like little surprises at the end of some 0% financing offer. And so, I love that because in the organization that I'm in, which is our partnerships business, we work with some great companies like, Walmart and Williams Sonoma and, Bass Pro Cabela's, Menards, a lot of really wonderful companies out there. And they all agree with that mission. And they sign up with us because they believe in kind of that better way of banking, that in those little ways that a lot of customers don't see, but we do. And when you realize it, it feels great. And so, if this even goes back when we made decisions, a dozen years ago to, remind people consistently about making their payments, you'd think that wouldn't be controversial. Back then it was, because that meant that people would make their payments on time and then we wouldn't make as much money. But we found that by being kind of, forthright and and do the right thing for the customer ends up, trusting us as an organization, as a banking institution. And as you look into the future and you think about this crazy world we're developing in, who do you trust with your data, with your money, right? The banking relationship has always been at the center of that. And so earning that trust is something that you have to do every day repeatedly. And I think with the new products and the transformation, we're going to be able to do that better than anybody. And I really do believe that. And so, just really proud and seeing the things that we get to work on in Élida. I know you're in the heart of many of those products and how we bring them to market, which is so exciting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you really hit the nail on the head there, Mike, because what it is it's about creating trust, right? And it's brand trust. It's trust that I am going to be safe. I am going to be protected. You're going to be transparent. You're going to be honest with me. There aren't going to be any of those surprises. And that trust, while there is a foundation from the technology standpoint, so we can address issues quickly if they come up and things that need to be remediated, but it's also in the experience. It's also, how are we thinking about having equitable interactions, making sure that we are thinking about how we mitigate any unconscious biases and how we're creating our machine learning or our natural language or whatever it is. All of those things are pillars to how we create that trusting relationship with our customers. And we are able to adapt quickly because we are in the cloud and we are embracing the journey of technology. We are trying to stay at the same pace of that technology evolution. And it's a really exciting time. And I couldn't agree more with you, Mike, that I think what Capital One has done and is doing is transformative, is truly innovative in the financial services space. And even in the technology space more broadly, even taking out just what we deliver for our customers. So it's a very exciting time to be at Capital One to be on this journey, to work on all of these things, to really think about how you continue to advance and build that trust with customers across lots of different aspects.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And you know, there were some really good questions that came in the chat as you were speaking, and I'll bring one of them up because it ties directly to, you know, something you just mentioned, Élida, about machine learning and AI. So I'm just going to read it right off of the chat here, and that was, since machine learning and AI came up, what are the considerations about AI ethics or responsibilities that are emerging for Capital One's work as we start thinking about, you know, emerging practices?
I can tell you from an experience design perspective, we have a practice group within our data team that is fully focused on understanding what ethical AI really means from a design perspective, defining what those principles that are going to guide us, things that we need to be aware of, and then how are we actually evaluating our products that are out in the market currently, as well as ones that are being developed, to ensure that we've got the clear kind of checklist, that we are making sure that we are bringing an equitable lens to everything that we do. It is a very complex and challenging space, but we have recognized as a design team that this is absolutely critical to creating the right kinds of experiences that are equitable for everyone, and that also bring in our sort of diversity, inclusion, and belonging lens that is so important to us as an internal organization and as Capital One employees overall, that we're bringing that to our experiences as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought up DIB because it's so embedded in our culture. Like a lot of topics that are really taboo just in society as a whole are not within Capital One culture. So it is embedded in our DNA and the way that we build experiences. One of the questions that was asked a little bit earlier was about how we were able to create experiences, efficient experiences, more so for our customers. And somebody wanted just a couple of examples of how we've been able to successfully do that.
So one of the things that we've been able to do in terms of creating successful experiences, I alluded to how we handled sort of the recession and the payroll protection work that needed to happen very quickly. We are able to work in prototype form very quickly. So we use Figma. We do a lot of prototyping. We do a lot of storyboarding in Figma. We also have a really robust design language system and design system that is leveraged not only by designers, but product folks and tech folks. So we have everything componentized, and we have things in CSS, React, Angular. So when we're developing and designing an experience, particularly if it's time sensitive, like with PPP, we can go grab those components and build something and get a test out within theoretically hours. So that has just enabled us to address issues and things that might come up that we need to account for in our experiences really, really quickly. And that is also part of how we've gone on this journey. We wouldn't have been able to do that level of detail design system creation if we had not been in the cloud. So I think what it does is just enables not only designers to create potential experiences, but it also democratizes our design process so that technology, engineers, product folks can also leverage those components to test and learn.
Awesome. You know, speaking on culture, and Mike, you brought up unassailability. I mean, both of you guys are, you know, leaders within the organization. I'm going to pick one of the questions that I saw here in the chat that touches a little bit on that. And the question here is, how or what advice would you give someone, regardless of their level or role, what can they do to be making an impact and furthering a culture of unassailability?
Yeah, so here's one of the things I'm a little bit of an advocate, well, not a little bit, I'm a massive advocate for right now, which is around psychological safety. And if anybody has an interest in this, Amy Edmondson out of Harvard University wrote a book called The Fearless Organization. Definitely recommend reading it. But here's the thing you need to know. There's two things that I really try to stress on people. In every discussion you go into, every new group you walk into or you zoom into or whatever, your level of psychological safety, meaning your willingness to share your ideas and your concerns with that group, changes. Like you may be at the kitchen table with your family, that's one level. Then you pick up get on a Zoom call and you're in the room with, your team, that's another one. You call into another meeting where with your executive team, that's another level. I guarantee you, your level of safety changes in every single one of those settings. But here's the second thing you need to know, and that is this. It only takes one person to unlock the safety in a group. It just takes one person to watch the body language, to listen to what people are saying, to look for things that might not be said, and invite people's voice to the table. And that's so important. When you're talking about unassailability, you need to know where you're doing damage or where there's risk. Because if you don't know, then you're blind to it. You may accidentally do something that you didn't intend to do. And so it's really, really, really important. We spend a tremendous amount of time trying to get the risks and the ideas and making sure we're inclusive, inviting people to the table. And it's something you have to work at constantly. It's not something you just arrive at, right? So that would be my advice.
I could not agree anymore. I think that is probably the most critical aspect to leading any team and having a culture where you can truly innovate and move things forward. I think one of the things outside of +1 to everything you said, Mike, is also being mindful of who's not in the room or on the Zoom. So if there are conversations that are happening and you're like, hold on a second, my tech partner is not in this room, they should be, invite them in. The same, I think, is true for what voices are you not hearing? I think one of the reasons why we've been successful at this transformation, getting to the other side of the canyon and creating a culture where we are really talking about diversity, inclusion, and belonging is about listening to diverse perspectives. So it's important that we have insight and information from other folks that may not have the same experience or subject matter expertise that the rest of us do. For example, I came to Capital One with no financial services experience, really. I did some consulting for financial services, but I was no subject matter expert, let alone deep understanding of commercial banking or small banking experiences. And that has been really helpful because I have a different perspective. And that perspective is what's helping us continue to grow. And so being mindful of all of those different points of view and inviting people in and understanding who's not in the room and advocating for those people to be in the room, I think also helps to create that psychological safety, which is so critical.
I love it. Thank you so much. And we did have another question. Heidi, I think you wanted to ask a question. I think this may or may not be like maybe second to last question.
Thank you, Blanca. Mike, nice to see you again. We miss you here at Fannie Mae. And this has been a really great discussion. Capital One is definitely far advanced from your transformation, right? And going into the cloud. And we're still in that journey. My question is twofold. One, past and future. So beginning in your strategy, did Capital One set off with a unified, like we're going 100% in the cloud, or was there a hybrid discussion? How did you land where you are now from a journey perspective? And then I was also curious to know, you guys are so much more advanced, like what are the current cloud trends that you're looking into now that, Capital One is, now kind of, touching and testing out that's new and emerging?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we didn't have all the answers when we started. So when we began the journey, it was very much a discovery of, just like everybody else, everybody had an opinion. Like, well, there's hybrid, and then there's, you had Google, Microsoft, Amazon, like which one should we use? And so there's the whole bake-off. And, I even remember the early days when I was at Fannie and kind of the discussions on kind of how that was going to go too. So, I have that perspective. Capital One wasn't different in the sense of, okay, we have all these choices. What we learned really fast though, was that it was so important to choose a path and to stick with it. And the realization that we had to go all in, that was more or less a given because we recognized this fundamental thing. We will not disrupt this company the way we need to and be able to compete with fintechs and others out there that are emerging unless we moved our entire stack to the cloud, into the modern technology stack. That was the fundamental breakthrough, because when we squinted our eyes and looked in the future, nobody was running their own data centers anymore, right? Like, unless you are a cloud provider, it wasn't going to be something you needed to do. Or some very bespoke, defense industries or things along those lines. So, for us, it was very clear that, it needed to be that. So on that journey, we started to experiment and figure out what was the right level of thing. And there was very much a, hey, what if we had kind of resiliency across different cloud providers? The problem is each cloud provider does things in their policies and the way that they approach very differently. It would have taken us a lot longer to try to, build for multiple cloud environments. And that was not, that did not make sense. So it made it for us, and what we were going after, it made a lot more sense to, build to a standard, and then build all the controls around that standard, and then make sure that play that we chose, which in this case was Amazon, we had top level resiliency. So Amazon has told us we were the first ones to really go after the regional. Like, most of the time they say they really push you for availability zones within a region. We were the first ones to go after the cross-region availability tests that we did, where we severed the brain of the network to make sure that we could completely flip-flop between the different regions for that resiliency that others are trying to say, well, I want resiliency across cloud providers. But we have found that by doing that, the levels of resiliency that a cloud provider like Amazon or Google or Microsoft can offer are multiple nines of resiliency that you will not be able to get in your own data center. You just won't. And so, that's the thing that kind of really was the breakthrough on that one. Now, the trends and for the future, definitely serverless is a big area we're going after because now, you don't have the waste of, constantly running compute. Right now we're doing a lot of scaling back up and down, but in the serverless world, when you're active only for microseconds, there it also has good cybersecurity implications there. But building robustness around that does not come for free. There's a lot of thought that has to go into that. And then advancing on our data environment, we've got some breakthrough kind of work going on in that space that I think is pretty important. And without question, machine learning, like that no question. There's just so much going on in that space and innovations every day. So hopefully that answered your question, Heidi. Good to see you again.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for that question, Heidi. Just a quick pulse check on time. I want to keep us on schedule here for our networking, but I do want to close this out with one fun question. So maybe we'll start with you, Élida. We know that it's been a crazy year, like year and a half. What's been the best thing that's happened to you this year?
So I love the question, Blanca. Thank you. I will say that personally, one of the best things that happened to me is I was able to see my parents and go on vacation with them in a safe way, because I hadn't gotten to see them for a long time, even though they only live in DC. So that was really great, like getting to see them. And then professionally, probably the highlight so far, outside of being invited to work with Mike and Blanca on HIT, was I am one of 3 creative directors for all of the Hispanic Heritage Month campaign activations across Capital One. So starting in September, when you see social media posts, you'll go to cafes or branches and you'll see these big activations. I got to be part of that. And that was such an amazing creative process that really kind of just filled my cup, made me so excited every day. And it's still happening. So it's not like we're out of the woods yet. There's lots of meetings. We're continuing to push things forward. But those are two really big highlights for me.
Good. For me, personal, not unlike Élida, we were able to go to Torreon, Coahuila in Mexico to visit, a family down there for the first time since the pandemic started. We did nothing but pretty much bunker down together because, coronavirus is still a major threat, but it was just amazing to be able to do that again. A little bit of normalcy. And then, professionally, I will say it again, felt so good to say bye-bye, mainframe. So getting the mainframe out of there, it was an awesome feeling. Now our third parties have to come along. So we're having fun with that. Thanks.
Thank you both for taking the time out and, just having the opportunity to chat with us this afternoon. It was great. Thank you so much. Turning it over to Viviana to kick us off on our networking portion.
Awesome. That was an amazing session. Yes. Goodbye to mainframe. Blanca, Mike, Élida, thank you for sharing Capital One's cloud transformation journey. So many great questions and so much insight as to how you were able to leverage cloud to maximize your customer experience. So thank you for this session and thank you for your continued partnership and engagement with the high-tech community. As Blanca mentioned, we're going to continue this conversation. We can still answer some questions if folks want to stick around for networking. But if not, we thank you for your continued engagement here at HiTech, and we'll see you at the next HiTech Live. So thank you. But if you want to stick around, don't leave.
So to kick it off, Blanca and Michael, do I need to join Capital One to get one of the cool t-shirts?
We were just talking that we're going to come up with a high-tech Capital One shirt together. So
there
that
you
way
go.
you can make it broader.
I like the idea. Excellent.
But if you want to get the collectors and the vintage ones, you're gonna have to join us.
Oh, we'll have to talk on the side then about that.
Me gusta.
All right.